Hey, welcome back to Performance Pyramid, Becoming a Bodyweight Badass. This is Brad Kazmarski. The last time I went through the active straight leg raise second position correction exercises, some that I like at least, and I went through a hip flexion position, and I'm going to do the opposite, which is hip extension. Not a lot of people think about that as a corrective for this pattern, but I think it's important to be able to stabilize the pelvis in both through hip flexion and extension, and that's really about the hip hinge pattern. So in this case, the first thing we're going to do again is give some pattern assistance, causing a little core activation. Once we've gone pattern assistance for core activation, now we're going to set the core and just go hip extension. We want to stay neutral through the spine. We don't want to torque. Set the core, glute, hip extension, reset. So it's equally important. Look at the position I'm at right here. Flip me over on my back now. Straighten that leg out. I'm at hip extension with this leg straight at 90 degrees. That's the position we want to be able to finish basically in the straight leg raise and the one leg RDL. So this is kind of my finisher in my one leg RDL or my active straight leg raise pattern. And we want to be able to do both sides obviously there. Once we've been able to do the pattern activation for a set of 10 or so multiple times, the next step in that is taking away the pattern assistance and just having the core activate itself. So now once we're here, we want to have the core be able to stabilize itself. Stays tight through the center as much as it needs to be and be able to stabilize the pelvis as we do it. So pattern assistance into now non-pattern assistance, which is just regular bird dog if you call it that. Now I'm going to grab the band and I'm going to go to the next variation. Now taking the Cook band or any tubing band, we're going to grab this and put it around one foot, and now we're going to go pattern resistance. So extend that hip, back through and back. I like an actual band if you can loop it around, you get a little more stability in the foot. So here, extend and stabilize. Now, that skips the pattern assistance because I don't have two bands. If you have two bands, add in pattern assistance while having resistance on that one foot. And then the final pattern through that, if you just want to throw on some sort of ankle weight or something to have some sort of resistance in the hip, or you can just stick with that because that's actually that's a different version of the pattern assistance. So you could go pattern assistance and hip extension right there, or this is what I just showed you, some sort of a different version of pattern assistance with resistance. So that is working through the bird dog or quadruped hip extension pattern. But I thought the main part to look at is this position, opposite that, flip me over right here. So 90 degrees right here. This is where we want to be in the active straight leg raise with this leg straight obviously. But this hip activation pattern, the hip extension, hip flexion, stabilization. And then put that in the one leg RDL too. Right here, being able to separate the hips and stabilize the spine. So the pattern, we first did posterior rocking, just to be able to get that pattern, the hips to be able to activate with the core, and be able to handle that pattern. Then we went into a hip flexion pattern, where we stabilize the opposite hip. Here we went into a hip extension pattern, where we stabilize the opposite hip. The next step in this progression then is going to take this pattern into the half kneeling progression in the active straight leg raise correction. So that was a lot of words and I went fast, so sorry about that, but next time.